Right now, it is the afternoon of the 1st of January 2021. I've been on holidays for 2 weeks, spending time with friends and family, catching up doing all the things in the lead up to Christmas and New Year. My original plan was to travel to Brisbane afterwards to catch up with more friends and family. But COVID-19 and the new lockdown restrictions just before Christmas closed the door to that opportunity firmly shut. So instead, I'm sitting at my kitchen table back home, planning for the year ahead and noting ideas and goals that I want to pursue. Right now, my mind is clear. I made a point not to open my laptop or my phone. It's just me, my notebook, and my thoughts. I am calm. I have clarity of thought. My mind isn't buzzing, nor is it tired. It is at peace, and I'm thinking clearly. With a crazy year of 2020 now behind us, I finally have the space to think. I have been in this state before, 2 times that I can recall. First was on a very long bus ride as part of a 2-week trip along the east coast of Norway. I'd been travelling for a couple of weeks beforehand in Denmark and Sweden, and now I was on roughly day 5 of a bus tour of Norway. On this particular day, we had a very long drive day ahead. I was enjoying the scenery of the Norwegian fjords out the window. I was comfortable and at peace, reflecting on my 2 amazing years living in London. A chapter in my life had closed, but the next chapter hadn't quite opened. I was in that in-between time, backpacking Europe before moving back to Australia. I remember that bus ride in June 2016 so clearly. Sitting on that bus for so many hours gave me the room to think. I reflected on my years of travelling, what I'd gone through personally, what I'd achieved, and how far I'd come. Having closed a chapter so definitely when my fantastic London adventure had ended allowed me to look back on my life and see the narrative, connect the dots, to understand the journey. This wonderful, peaceful clarity of thought led me to write a 3,500-word essay reflecting on the 3.5 years of my travelling. I published this to my travel blog and shared it with friends and family. I received a number of messages from old friends thanking me for sharing such deep personal reflections and that they had appreciated the raw honesty. I really like rereading that piece, reimagining that bus ride, finding the calm space that allows for new thoughts and clear thinking. The second time I was in this state of deep thought was in June 2018, when my partner and I did a big backpacking trip before we moved to Berlin. And it took me around 3 months to actually reach this point. We left Australia in March, and my work was very stressful and busy in the lead up to my departure. It took me a solid month just to decompress from the stress of that work. We travelled through New Zealand for 2 weeks before we flew to Nepal, where we would hike the Annapurna Circuit. I was extremely nervous for this trip, mostly because I'd never been at high altitudes before and I didn't know how my body was going to react. I kept a daily notebook during that trip, which was mostly recounting the day, describing the various dangers we faced and illnesses we endured, and the utter relief when it was all over. This period was extremely stressful, and there was no room for me for clear thinking. But in June, we flew from Nepal to France to commence the Camino de Santiago pilgrim walk, a 30-day walk across Spain from the bottom of France in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to the far west of Spain, a total of around 900 kilometres. This experience in Spain was completely different to our experience in Nepal. We were more familiar with the culture, we were closer to sea level, so we didn't have to worry about our heads exploding from the altitude, and daily life was just easier. Our routine for a month consisted of waking up, having breakfast, walking west for 4 hours, stopping for lunch, walking west for another 4 hours, then stopping for dinner, chatting with other pilgrims along the way, and going to sleep. It was a very simple life, with a very simple goal. Keep walking west until you can't walk west anymore. I had an interesting epiphany about 3 weeks in while on Camino, and that is, your mind can't think clearly when it is stressed or distracted physically. I kept my daily journal and found it so interesting to look back when I had this realisation. The first week was a mix of buzz and excitement with the other pilgrims. The second week was reflecting and processing our crazy experience in Nepal. But then, in about week 3, both of us were talking a bit less and thinking a bit more. I also had more insightful journal entries these days too. But I also found that I couldn't think clearly if I was hungry, if my nose was running, if I was busting for the toilet, if I was cold, if we were walking next to a busy highway. If there was anything physically distracting me, I couldn't think clearly and deeply. This discovery was really drilled home when I was writing about it in my journal at the time, and was interrupted by a series of sneezes. The sneezes distracted me and made me need to get up and find a tissue. I was literally writing about how physical distractions stop us from thinking deeply, and then I had a run of sneezes that interrupted me from writing that thought. It made me giggle so much at the time. These 3 times, in Norway, Spain, and right now, have 3 things in common to get to these deep states of calm contemplation. First, complete physical comfort. Second, no stresses or worries clouding thought. And 3, each of those times it took me about 2 weeks to reach this state. Bill Gates famously has his Think Weeks, where he brings a stack of books and a notepad to a cabin in the woods, with no internet and no devices, where he can have the space and time to think. Austin Clone said that when he was younger, he worked a non-demanding part-time job at a library. When he wasn't at the library, he was doing nothing but reading, writing, and drawing. And in the years since, he has executed a lot of the ideas that he had during this period. But having space and time to think is difficult to come by. Even when you create space and time for this thought, it's not always a guarantee. Even writing this in my notebook now, my cats have jumped up for pats, nature is called, my feet were cold, my body and mind were physically distracted, so at those moments it was hard to think clearly. I often think back to these times and how much I relish the space and peace. I'm enjoying it now because I know it won't last. I'm sure I will transcribe these words onto my laptop to edit. Then I will read it aloud and record it for a video and add some B-roll. And then I will share it with you so you can watch it. I'm not sure what state you'll be in when you hear these words, but I'm guessing, since you're on some type of device, that you will be distracted, your thoughts buzzing, or you'll just have other things on your mind, and that's okay. Right now, it's just me, my notebook, and my thoughts. My belly is full, but not too full. I have a roof over my head, but no worries filling my head. I'm happy, healthy, alive, and at peace. My mind is calm. These moments are rare and fleeting. Soon enough, it'll be time to eat dinner, turn on a light, and get back to the regular pace of life. My mind will go back onto semi-autopilot, with only glimpses of space and snippets of time for deep thought, rather than these beautiful, lovely, long stretches. But that's okay too. I'm enjoying it right now.